All right, let's get started. So I'm going to interrupt your conversations. What is a GIC, guys? A GIC? You're going to have to know this. Guaranteed Investment Certificate, yes. After today, you're going to see more signs when you drive by a bank, GIC, a 2-year, a 3-year, a 4-year, okay? So a GIC, you lock in your money, right? So for example, there was a 5% interest rate to lock in your money for 5 years. So I grabbed whatever I had my investments, not all of it, but I put some of it down and I signed for 5 years. You cannot touch it, and that's why your interest rate is higher. So the good thing is it's safe, but the bad thing is it's locked in. You can't just take it out. Like even if you want to use it to buy a car, you're locked in for 5 years. You can't use it. So GICs are safe, but the downside is you can't touch it for the term that you signed for. The other one that you need to know about is stocks, shares, or market. Notice that it's on the higher end of this spectrum here. So it means that you potentially get a high return, okay, with stock and like investing in the stock market. But the risk is also very high. So why is it at the tip here? Because potentially you earn a lot more than just investing it in a regular savings account, but you may also lose it all, okay? You may lose a lot, or like, I don't know if you follow the market, Trump with this whole tariff thing, trillions of dollars were lost over a week or two. Because, right, it doesn't mean that you can't gain it back, but it will take a while to gain it back, right? So those are the two main ones that I want you to remember, right? The GIC and the stock, like higher risk. So for your study sheet, just a quick entry would be high potential return, right? High potential return, but you risk losing, okay? Losing a lot. That's the downside. So the good side is that you earn more potentially, but you risk losing it all. GIC, it's safer, but you lock in funds, can't use it. Until term is over, okay? So that's I'm gonna still say you should watch the video because there's a lot of stuff, a lot of terms that I talk about there. I'm just giving you a little nutshell, like overview, those two, okay? And then I want to jump back a page and focus in on question 3 and 4. Highlight those two. It's pretty loud, eh? What are the advantages of diversifying your investment portfolio? Question, what does diversifying mean? What does diversify your portfolio mean? This is on page 7. You go back a page. Anybody know what diversifying? Switch it up. Getting there? Yeah. You invest in different things instead of one. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. So what diversifying? It just means that you would put some money maybe into real estate, some money in the stock market, some money in GICs, guaranteed investment certificates. They're very safe, like your money is guaranteed. No matter what happens to the markets, you're guaranteed your money back and then whatever interest they promised you. Mutual funds. And the big one right now, what's doing really well right now in the market? What's that? Gambling? Gambling? It is a bit of a gamble. Gold. Have you heard of gold doing really well right now? So you can actually invest in gold. You can actually invest in energy. That's the big talk right now, right? The governments are all saying, "Hey, drill, baby, drill," right? Like they want to like run pipelines and energy is probably going to go up, right? Like hydro, liquefied gas, all of these things. So that's what diversifying means. You don't put all your eggs in one basket. So if, let's say real estate crashes, you may still be able to recover because you have money in other sectors. That's what diversification means. So that's what you should be doing. Whoa. It's very windy in here. How should an investment portfolio change as you age? Is that affecting you guys? So this is speaking for all of you. What should happen to the portfolio as you age? This is a portfolio, folks. Everybody's investment portfolio is different. Everybody has a different level of risk tolerance. Okay? You might say, I'm not putting any money in the stock market, forget it. I'm not comfortable with losing even $1. So you might say, my portfolio will not have stock market. Maybe you're saying gold, like why would I invest in gold? Like what? I would say it's the safest investment by far over, a bunch of years has been gold. Did you know that you need the same amount of ounces of gold to buy a house now than that you needed 20, 30 years ago? The amount of gold that you need is the same. The prices have gone up, right? But it's because the weight of gold has gone up too. A bar of gold is a bar of gold. Like it doesn't change. The weight doesn't change. The value goes up, right? So gold is a safe haven quite often when things are not going well. How should your portfolio change as one ages? This is what should happen. Okay, let's make a little chart. This is high. This is your risk. This will be high, and this is low, and this is your age. If you had to draw a straight line, which way do you think it should go? When you're really young, should you start with a high risk? Okay. All your stuff is there.
Thank you.
No. You should start high because you're young, so even if you're losing, you still have time to gain it back. And then you should slowly, as you get older, your risk level should decrease. Okay? Okay? So age, this is when you're older, and this is when you're younger. This concept is something they really need you to, they're going to test you on this in various ways. Okay? So how do we put this practically? Maybe this is what should happen. Let's say this is your portfolio. Okay? And let's say you have a little bit in GICs and you've got a lot in the stock market. See you tomorrow. Let me just pause here for Ren, just 1 second. Okay, so this is when you're young. You have lots of most of your money is in high risk, and a little bit of your money is in low risk. So when you're older, or when you're approaching retirement, anybody know what retirement age is? It used to be 65. We are all stuck with 67. They changed it a couple of years ago, and that's because people are living longer. The money is getting depleted from the pension fund, Canada Pension. So now we all have to work till 67 unless you put your own stash away. And then it's, of course, different. So the portfolio here, then you should probably, some would say get rid of all your stock. Don't even have any money. But the idea here is older. I would say 50 plus. So the province kind of tends to go with the 55. Hey, so-and-so is turning 55. Suggest one thing that's wrong with the portfolio right now. And you should be able to say, hey, wait a minute, like it's too high risk, right? That's the problem. Should go lower risk, because if you lose it, you don't have the time to gain it back. Okay? So these are important concepts. Please somehow have this on your study sheet. Be creative. Don't take up tons of space. Just make sure you have that on there. And you know what a GIC is. Maybe not necessarily the definition, but if you see it, you should be like, oh yeah, GIC is when I lock it in. It's safe, but I lock it in. Stock market, not as safe, but you make more. Okay? So that's the idea. Okay, let's do some math here. We're going to start with simple interest, and then we'll go compound interest. This is what I will say about interest. If you don't understand it, you will pay it. I don't know if you have you seen that commercial? There's this app to invest, and the professor is doing things, and then if you understand compound interest, you'll earn it. If you don't understand it, you'll pay it. So you need to understand interest. Out of all the things that we talk about, very important. So when you're talking simple interest, how do you know for sure that you're in simple interest territory? Is there's no compounding happening. That's later. More about that later. Okay? So here we go. So just highlight a bunch of stuff. The one thing that you need to know about simple interest, folks, is this. If you compare time and dollars, simple interest, I would have this on my study sheet next to simple interest. It always is a linear relation. Okay? It's linear. Versus compound interest, which we're going to talk about. You can't see that, sorry. Compound interest is going to be an exponential curve, folks. It's going to go curve up and go up really fast. Okay? Linear is slow growth, right? Exponential, that's where it's at. So that's why you kind of want compound interest when you're earning interest. It's the amount of interest earned based on only the principal. If we graph simple interest as a function of time, it produces a linear function. The y-intercept is the starting principal, and the slope is the interest earned. When using simple interest formula, time, this is important, different color for this one, because this is probably what's going to throw you off the most. Time must always be expressed as years. Okay? So when it's in days, what are you going to do to days to turn that into years? Yeah, divided by 365. If it's months, divided by 12. If it's weeks, 52. You need to know that one. Okay? There are 52 weeks in a year. So if it's days, you're like, how many days in a year? 365. If it's months, there are 12 months. If there's weeks, there's 52 weeks. And just leave it as a fraction. I will actually encourage you to just leave it like that. But as soon as you have the fraction, you can turn it into years. And there you have it. Okay? So maybe I will just do this. 1 year has 12 months, has 52 weeks, has 365 days, has 26, watch this one, semi-monthly periods. Sure that doesn't throw you off, guys? Maybe I'll close it in a bit when we do the math. And so for simple interest, you should have this formula, and the formula is, which you're probably very familiar with, I party, right? That's at this age, that's what you do a lot. So interest is equal to principal times rate times time. Okay? So you calculate the interest earned or paid, and that's in dollars, by the way. Principal is the original or initial amount that you've borrowed. That's also in dollars. Rate of interest will be as a decimal when you insert it, and time has to be in years. Very important. Interest as a decimal, interest will have to be stated in years. From here, we can deduct the following. Okay? I don't know why I say recall, but sometimes I do it in a different order. But this is important. This is worth boxing in. Future value, the amount you will have in the future, is equivalent to the principal, the amount you invest, plus any interest earned. Okay, that's an important concept to know. And in general, this is the formula we use, okay? This long statement here is summarized by that formula. A is the amount you have in the future is principal plus I, okay, pi. And so let me give you a variation of this formula right here. Watch this, follow my pencil. I is PRT, correct? So we will take I in this term and insert it into this formula right here. So we will rewrite it, but instead of I here, we're going to actually just go PRT. And the only reason I'm doing this is because sometimes this formula is more beneficial to use than this one. Most of the time I use this, but you also need to know this one. I equals P plus PRT. And if you're wondering where that came from, I'm going to go arrow here. Just make sure you write everything down, okay? So you have some time later. And so you can leave it like this, but the clean version of this is P. You can take P out from this term and this term. And you end up with just 1 plus RT. This is the other formula I would have on my study sheet. When do you use this? I will go star. Use this if only two variables are known. And by that I mean, if you think of I equals PRT, if you only know two of these things, you're not going to be able to solve it with this format. That's when you use this one right here, okay? And if you're scratching your head, that's fine. We'll do more later, okay? Another concept here, and then we'll start doing some math. There's something that I would say this is just for life as well, rate of return, ROR. It's expressed as a percentage, and it's relative to the amount invested by the owner. It is not necessarily dependent on the amount of time involved. That's worth highlighting. Okay. So what's the rate of return? You take your future value minus the initial value. That's what we call the principal. And we divide it by what you started off with. Okay? And we multiply that by 100, and that gives us our rate of return. That tells us like how much did we get back for every dollar we put in. What am I doing here? This is a different version, but it's the same thing, okay? These are exactly the same. Is that too loud or what? It is too loud. Have one of these, if not both, on your study sheet. I would say I will just box in everything here. Rate of return comes back again and again, and it's particularly helpful when you're investing, when you're talking about investments. Another color here. A greater rate of return is better since you gained the most compared to the initial amount. So we will sometimes talk about, someone investing $1,000 here at 7%, or someone putting away $10 a month. And we'll compare both of those investments and see which one is better overall. And the rate of return is going to be the one that indicates which one was better. Okay? So now that we have that out of the way, let's do some math here involving simple interest. Okay. So Jen invests $2,500 in a GIC. That should not surprise you anymore. It's an investment. 2.5% simple interest. There's that word, simple interest. For 10 years. Calculate the interest earned at maturity. What does this word mean? It just means at the end of the term. Right? At maturity, when it matures, something is done. You're ready. Okay? And so that's what happens there. So immediately, you will think of I equals. So at this point, you do this. Let's say you're stuck. Just go with this. PRT. Make a little inventory. That should be your first go-to. And then let's see what happens. Jen invests. That is what we call the principal. It's that original amount that you put away. Okay? So that is the $2,500 right here. The rate is given by the interest rate right here, 2.5%. So you go 2.5%, but please turn that into a decimal. Okay. Time, time needs to be in years, right? And it's 10 in this case, so we go 10 years. So guess what? If you're able to fill in everything but one, this is the way that's the formula you're going to use. I equals PRT. Okay, that is what is asked of you. So let's figure that out. I equals PRT. You write it out like that and substitute in. You're not going to do this every time. Down the road, you're going to avoid this step because it may be too time consuming. That's fine. So I equals $2,500. Rate is that, and time is 10. Okay? And then you just multiply that out. Grab my calculator. There we go. So the interest you've earned is $625. Okay. Show two different ways to calculate the future value of the investment at maturity. Future value is how much you have. How much will you have at the end? That's basically what it's asking. This only tells you earned $625. Okay, so future value is always the principal plus any interest that you've earned. So our principal was $2,500. The interest you've earned is $625. Okay, so that would give you $31.25. That's how much you actually have. Like, that's the future value of your investment right? You earn $625, you slap that onto the initial amount, principal, and that's what we refer to with future value. The other one, is using this formula right here. I need you to understand this part. When you're still writing this down? Okay, write it down. When you use this formula, what are you finding? If you're finding just the interest, right? So it requires you to do this extra step to find out how much money you have. If you use this other version of the formula, if that's the one you're able to use, guess what you're finding? You are finding the future value, like how much you have in total with the interest earned. So in this case, you could have also used that version, 1 plus RT. Okay. So what's the principal? Is 2,500. 1 plus, my rate is 0.025, and my time is 10. Like that. And watch this. I'm going to use square brackets for this part, because what's happening inside is, right, you're multiplying the rate times time, then adding 1 to it. So it's 2,500. If you do this right, if you type it in as is, you should not get this wrong. You can actually, the calculator will do BEDMAS, which means first multiply, then add 1 to it. So you end up with 1.25. So you multiply that by 2,500, and there it is, 31.25, just like we did earlier. Okay, we got that same amount. So simple interest, here we go. State the rate of return of the investment. I'm going to do this, ROR. The easiest way for me is saying interest divided by principal, like what you've put in the first place, and you multiply that by 100. That's the easiest way. If you can, just think of it that way. You're comparing what you've earned to what you've put in, and you multiply it by 100. And we know our interest is what? 625. What is my principal? 2,500, right? 2,500. You multiply that by 100. So if somebody says to you down the road, oh, my investment is much better than yours, yours sucks, right? All you do is you do the rate of return. You do this calculation. So for every dollar you put in, you get a quarter, like you get 25 cents back. That's what this is saying, okay? For every dollar you get 25 cents back. Is that a good return? It depends. I think there's much better. There's returns that give you 200%, 300%, 400%. They give you like way more than this back. So you'll have to do the calculations and see which one is better. Okay, a little switch here. If she wanted $3,500 after 500 weeks, what interest rate would she need? I'm going to play a student here and imagine, like, I just know this is simple interest and I don't know here. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I immediately do the IPRT and I fill in what I know. 500 weeks would go here, right? But what's the problem with that right now? It's in weeks, so we need to make sure it's divided by 52. Okay, and then you can turn that into years. The interest rate is what they're asking me for. They're not asking for interest rate. The principal, do I know principal? I actually, in this case, do know that it's still $2,500, right? Like I put in $2,500. That was the principal, it didn't change. What's my interest? How much interest, think about it this way, how much interest will you have earned to get from $2,500 to $3,500? How much do you need to have earned? $1,000, yes. So I'm just gonna go and do this. So sometimes some of the numbers are hidden. You need to kind of figure out what needs to be done. Can I use I equals PRT? And the answer is yes, because I have everything except for one of those, which is rate. So I start with the same formula. It's just a little bit more complicated. So we put 1,000 in for interest. We know that principal is 2,500. We know that rate is just R. Time is 500 divided by 52. And you might want to, I think you should probably turn that into a decimal. I will do that. 500 divided by 52. That's 9.61 years and something, but don't round. And just to make this a little bit, I will multiply that by the 2,500. Right? You can multiply these two numbers, and you're left with 24,038.46 something something times R. And what will you do there to solve for R? You divide both sides by 24,038.46 and something. Same on this side. Just divide it like that. So it's basically, on this side, you're doing this to cancel out the numbers. And the math is really happening on the other side. So I'm going to go 1,000 divided by, and there you have it. R is 0.0416, or R is, if you multiply that by 100, 4.16%. So either one, unless the question says it explicitly, either one of them is fine to answer in, okay? So this is percentage, that's a decimal, so now you know. E, we'll do that one, and then I'll let you do some work on your own. If she wanted 2,817 after 890 days at 4.25, how much would she have had to initially invest? Okay, so let's see what we have here. IPRT. Fill in what you know. If she wanted 2,800, can I put that into I? No, because that's not, right? It's not the interest earned, that's what she wanted. 890 days, for sure I can put that here. I'll write it as a fraction. The interest rate I do have, turn that into a decimal. It's asking flat out, watch this, how much would you have to initially invest? This is P, that's unknown to me. Is it possible to know how much interest you need to have earned if you don't know what you started with? It's impossible. So that's where you have two question marks. What does that tell you? Use the other formula. This one, use A equals P1 plus RT. This formula does not have interest in it. Watch, it doesn't have the letter I in it. That's why this one rescues you in this situation. So we're going to figure this out. A is known to us, right? A is the amount you want to have. P is unknown. 1 plus rate times time, which is a very weird number, but you're not going to fear it because it's a fraction, all right? But just type it in as you see it. And I use square brackets to differentiate between all of those brackets that appear. So let's clean this up here, this part right here. 1 plus 0.0425, and I put the 890 divided by 365 in brackets like that. So 2817 P, and then you get this long number there. So you basically want to clean it up to the point where you just have to divide. So here we divide by 1.103. Cancel out on that side, so you're left with this, and there you have it. P, the amount you would need to have invested if you wanted the outcome that the question mentions, is this. Okay. That is how much you would have had to invest. So when I have the two unknowns, I use that formula right there. Okay. Definitely want to use that one. All right. Oh, it asks for rate of return. Notice that I'm kind of speeding a little bit so that you have time to work in class. Okay. Then I can answer any questions that you have there. What's rate of return again? Interest divided by principal times 100. I know it's going to be frustrating that I'm using different terminology. Sometimes I use A for future value. Okay. I use P for principal. That's the original amount. You're going to have to come to terms with that. So how much interest did I earn in this situation right here? You have to do some math here, folks. You have to see if I started with this and I got to that, that is the interest that I've earned. So in this case, I'm actually going to show how I subtract that. Divided by what I started off with. So it's interesting that you're going to see the same number twice. And all of that gets multiplied by 100. So let's do the math there. I'll just tell you. 262.93 divided by 25, 37, 24 times 100. Let me bring this up so you can see. When you divide them and multiply by 100, you get 10.36% as a rate of return. Was this a better investment than the one before? It was terrible compared to the one that before. Earlier we got 25% rate of return. This investment gives you 10.36, so it's like less than half the rate of return. Those of you that are interested in the stock market, okay, if you're going to invest at some point, rate of return is how you compare apples to apples. So let's say I go to my bank and I just invested safe in a GIC, and you go and invest in a stock market and it goes like up, down, up, down. There's no interest rate. There's no interest rate in the stock market. So in that case, you want to compare how much should I start with, like how much money did I put in, how much should I get back, and that difference is going to be what you compare to the starting amount, right? The interest compared to the starting amount, and then times 100. All right. I'm going to post the key 11 all the way to, for now, all the way to, I think it stops at 15. Yeah, 11 to 15. So you're going to try a couple because they all have different scenarios, okay? And you can feel free to ask me for help. So page 11 to 15, plus watch the video if you haven't done it, okay? Video on terminology, on understanding this unit.